Go with Stowe. Howard Stopeck for Congress, United States House of Representatives, 5th District of Georgia. Congressmen create legislation to serve us, sell it to the other members, and make it law. Here's my platform, my specific solutions, how I'll vote, and who I am. Fulfill God's commandment to provide for the poor, the widow, the orphan, and the stranger by reviving FDR's Civilian Conservation Corps, reduce unemployment, and reduce spending. God commanded us to provide for the poor. The poor do not have the right to be cared for. That's our obligation. Maimonides, the greatest scholar of the Torah, taught us to care for the poor by giving him an interest-free loan, a grant, or a job, so we don't have to rely on others, and to strengthen the stranger so he won't fall and need our help. Where did this come from? What do we believe today? Leviticus 19:9-10. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very corners of your field, nor shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. And you shall not glean your vineyard, nor shall you gather every grape of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. Deuteronomy 4:19-22. When you cut down your harvest in your field and have forgotten a sheaf in the field, you shall not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the orphan, and for the widow. And remember that you were slaves in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command that you do this. Proverbs 22:22. Do not rob the impoverished because he is impoverished, referencing our duty to the poor that we are obliged by the Torah. Combine that with FDR. In the truest sense, freedom cannot be bestowed. It must be achieved. Combine that with Benjamin Franklin. They that can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Combine that with Frederick Douglass. No man can put a chain about the ankle of his fellow man without at last finding the other end fastened about his own neck. Combine that with Louis Brandeis. It is the duty of every man to help the poor so they'll feel there's some hope for them in life. The greatest danger to liberty lurk in the insidious encroachment by men of zeal, well-meaning but without understanding. Combine that with the Chinese proverb. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man a fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Combine that with JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. We brought low the poor and endangered their liberty by our zeal with no understanding. We gave a man a fish instead of teaching him how to fish. We enabled and encouraged them to expect entitlements to exist. We addicted and enslaved them. We didn't lift them up. We caused them to fall by our naive incompetence at best or demonic bewitchment at worst. We robbed them of their liberty, dignity, and kept them in the dust without hope. We wasted trillions to administer that folly, enriched the plunderers, and bankrupt the rest of us. We violated our obligation to God, wasted their productivity, and committed a sin that must be undone. But how? Restore FDR's Civilian Conservation Corps, assigned to the Army Corps of Engineers, working on roads, bridges, rivers, streams, and our infrastructure, as a division of the Defense Department in 6-month enlistments governed by the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The CCC will include training, uniforms, on-base medical care, gangs outlawed, eat in the mess hall, perform the work for which they were trained on our infrastructure as qualified workers. They'll receive a diploma from the Defense Department as credentials of their competence. We'll have less unemployment. They'll be encouraged to leave the nest but could re-enlist for another 6 months, get more training without paying a tuition that would otherwise cost a bundle, With our help, the poor will lift themselves up and serve our country. Only then will JFK's philosophy apply. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Obama got it backwards. It's not what you can do for your country, it's what your country can do for you as a matter of right, as long as you vote that way. The CCC will be included in the defense budget. The funding for AFDC, public housing, food stamps, emergency room medical care, and most of what government inefficiently outlays for the poor will be reduced. The CCC is not only essential to a vibrant economy, we have an obligation to teach a man to fish, protect him from the plunderers while he's fishing, and find a way to make every one of us productive, including the lame who yearn to be productive. Mother eagle brings rats to the nest to feed her eaglets. When they're capable of flight, she'll push her babies out of the nest, watch them fly, and live like eagles. Democrats believe humanity requires Mama Eagle to bring rats to her babies forever. So they'll stay in the nest forever and never fly. Those who think they have a right to stuff by the fact of their existence are self-inflicted slaves who vote but never fly. Eliminate evil lobby paybacks. Nobody likes the idea of lobbies, except their special interest employers and the legislators who take their money. Special interests make campaign contributions and give things of value to legislators as payback for their vote. Whether it's from unions, anti-oil, anti-defense, or from oil, Wall Street, defense contractors, or any special interest who pays legislators obscene sums of money in trade for payback. In fact, during political campaigns, each party publishes the great sums of money they raked in, and they do it with pride, as if that's evidence of a candidate's competence. To me, that's legal bribery and a Faustian compact with the devil. McCain-Feingold tried, but it didn't end that legal bribery, as it was emasculated by United States Supreme Court Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. 130, Supreme Court 876, a 2010 decision which held that unions and corporations could use their Treasury money to support or oppose candidates in elections as a constitutional engagement of freedom of speech. I know a way to end that legal bribery without violating the unions or corporations' constitutional freedom of speech as held in Citizens United. I propose enacting legislation that prohibits legislators who receive anything of value from any special interest, however made, from sponsoring, introducing, supporting, or voting for legislation that benefits that special interest. The violation shall be an impeachable offense and a crime. The receiving legislator shall have an ethical duty to report and announce what they raked in from any special interest and recuse themselves when the legislation is introduced or comes for a vote. Anything of value shall include, but not limited to, any direct or indirect campaign contributions, TV commercials, golf outings, transportation, hotel rooms, meals, drinks, vacations, or anything of value. The enactment of this legislation will withstand a constitutional freedom of speech challenge because the Citizens United decision does not prohibit unions and corporations from contributing tons of money or their compact with the devil to stick their beaks into the common trough, suck our treasury dry, and then ask us to pay even more taxes so they could keep on doing it to us. Our greatest obstacles to rid ourselves of this enterprise are legislators who will enforce their compact with the devil and live in the special interest pocket. They are special interest tools, payback addicts who need that money to maintain their habit. Then watch them try to justify their compact with intellectual spin and gamesmanship. Freedom of choice should be equally applied. I am pro-life versus pro-death. The abortion issue has torn us apart. People march carrying brutal signs of outrage, shaking fists, calling the others the enemy, while each side artfully justifies their beliefs. Abortion is not a capital offense, punishable by execution, stoning, life imprisonment, nor is it prohibited by any criminal statute. No person could be criminally complicit in an act that is not prohibited by law. Whereas I am pro-life, and I believe that abortion is wrong, I will not vote for any law, nor will I support any person who tries to make it a crime. I believe that people must live with their morality on earth and be judged by the Almighty in the hereafter. Republican Abraham Lincoln advocated civil rights, and if you're interested in facts and not spin, 85% of the Republican senators and only 65% of the Democrat senators voted for the 1964 Civil Rights Act. I will propose legislation making it a crime to coerce a worker to join a union or coerce a union worker to vote contrary to their freedom of choice. I will propose legislation allowing parents the freedom of choice to send their children to either a public or private school, with an apportionment of federal monies paid to government for education to be redistributed to the parents in the form of vouchers to give to public or private schools, pursuant to their freedom of choice. Alternately, abolish the Department of Education, where the cost to educate will be paid directly to the states, who will administer education and the parents' freedom of choice to educate their children. Since Democrats deny conservatives freedom of choice regarding school vouchers and right to work states, while claiming a woman's freedom of choice right to an abortion, they are inconsistent hypocrites, no matter how they try to intellectualize or spin it. Get the evil rich to finance our debt instead of China. We owe China 9% of our debt at a 2.5 to 4% fluctuating interest rate based on 20-year notes. And they're going to 3 or 6 month notes at higher interest rates. Great Britain owns 3%, the European Union owns 4%, and Japan owns 1.5% of our debt. We could raise the debt ceiling to borrow more money at unknown interest, or beg other countries to loan us more money just to pay the interest. How will we get the money without begging? And if we do beg and get it, will we drown in debt to become another Greece or Portugal? Obama wants to confiscate the money of the evil rich by taxing them even more. Obama told us he's only going to tax the top 1% because it's unfair for the evil rich to ride on the backs of the poor. He thinks that since the rich are boogeymen hoarding their money, he's going to confiscate their money as an act of Marxist class warfare. Visualize the evil rich moving their facilities out of America to tax-friendly countries to avoid those confiscatory practices, or just shut it down, leaving no evil rich in America. The money is here, and we can get it if Obama abandons his spread the wealth philosophy. We could issue 10-year Treasury bonds at 4% interest, being less than the interest we pay China, with full disclosure of the risk. Get the evil rich to invest in America and keep it in the family. Then we'll see if the rich are evil as Democrats proclaim, or if they're patriots who will finance our debt rather than having us look like beggars to the rest of the world. George Soros, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, and other rich guys will buy those Treasury bonds rather than having us bow and scrape to China.